Fight Night Picks is brought to you by Strikeforce Energy. Head on over to the website strikeforceenergy.com if you enjoy the flavor of freedom. The company's veteran owned and everything's made in America. They've got great apparel. You can turn any 16.9 ounce beverage into an energy drink. There's no sugar, no calories, no stirring or no shaking required. They also have a line of different products as well as Strikeforce coffee. So if I head into my cart, I've got a 4-count sample pack. I've got a 20-ounce coffee mug. And if I head into that checkout, use the promo code FNP, click to apply, and you're going to save 20% off any order. That's FNP at strikeforceenergy.com.
It's time
for 15 minutes of non-stop MMA, tackling the biggest news in the sport. Head into the chat and let us know how you feel. Live from Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, here's your host, Craig Allen.
And how good it is to be live once again with Fight Night Picks, question mark kicks. I am one half of your co-hosting duo, as always, at Craig Allen FNP. You can find me there on Twitter and Instagram. Of course, Matt tends to work on Saturdays now. So we're looking ahead to a great card coming up tonight in about a half hour from the Apex facility. It's the fourth fight card from Vegas. Of course, next week going live from Yaz Island, or Fight Island as they're calling it. Seems like Dana White's already over there. If not, maybe had somebody snap him a pic of the island, getting ready for that one. But tonight we have a really good one, and it's kind of a surprise to maybe some people, the fact that Dustin Poirier, Dan Hooker headlining a really good card. It's not often you see fighters of that quality making the walk in front of no fans whatsoever, but we have a really good card coming up tonight. I want to see your picks filling in that chat. I mean, Manny Lopez here, Riley Hirschfeld. We've got Trovelin and Kaya saying Maurice Greene over Gian. Best quality. He is a nice guy, also has a good chin, but the range and length should keep Greene safe and out of range. A lot of good picks coming at us so far in that chat, so keep those coming. And the point of this show today, we're going to go through the entire card. We didn't have a chance to profile the late addition in Takashi Sato taking on a really tough out in Jason the Vanilla Gorilla Witt. So we'll get into that one. We'll get into the rest of the card. Of course, we have a really good one in Jordan Griffin taking on Youssef Zalal to start off that card. So I'm going to hop back into the chat. AM saying Poirier, third round TKO. Watch Gall submit Perry. Nevin Mai saying might have been a bad cut, was all hydrated and hyped up for weigh-ins. Perry to Bellator, AM is also saying. So it'll be really interesting to see how that fight goes in our co-main event between Mike Perry and Mickey Gall, because for what it's worth, I mean, Mickey Gall so far in his UFC career, he's 6-2 overall, one win before joining the UFC, so 5-2 with the promotion. His last fight against Salim Touahri, and I know a lot of people in the comments under that one were saying, hey, that's a really good fight, this and that. But it'll be really interesting to see what we get out of this one. Jordan McMillan with the super chat. Really appreciate you, Jordan, hitting up the super chat. What's your lock of the night? That's a great question. Cosmo saying that Greene is a lock of the night. All right, Jordan. So you threw up the super chat. I will get into my lock of the night. That's your question. That's the way that works. My lock of the night tonight, without a doubt, is going to be... And wait for it, drum roll please, Sean Woodson over Julian Erosa. And I get it. I mean, Sean Woodson's probably the biggest favorite on the card, a minus 500 there. So I'll give you another one, Jordan, too, because you were so nice for throwing in that super chat there. So if you really want to get into a lock of the night situation, Sean Woodson over Julian Erosa. I had Sean Woodson to originally get the win against Kyle Nelson. I thought that was a super lock of the night there. If you want another one, I would easily go with, and this is going to be a contentious one here, Tanner Boser over Philipe Lins. That's probably the biggest pick'em flip of the coin type of fight that is on this card. But the fact that Tanner Boser is, just the fact that those odds are so close there, I would not hesitate to pick Tanner Boser to get a win over Philipe Lins. I mean, Philipe Lins looked like, and I know a lot of people were surprised by the fact that we have bags of milk up here in Canada, but I said Philipe Lins looked like a bag of milk coming out to fight Andrei Arlovski. But you have to look at that fight, and you have to put quite a bit of stock into that fight, because if you think about it, what does Andrei Arlovski do well right now this late in his career? It's the fact that he can just land volume, in and out, in and out. Well, that's exactly what Tanner Boser does very well. And Tanner Boser's taken on tough competition before. So far in the UFC, he had the fight against Daniel Spitz. All right, whatever. say what it is, say or take it for what it's worth. Jack Reinhardt saying Boser's leg kicks. That's where I'm going with this. Boser moves in and out very well. He throws that back right leg kick incredibly well, and he can throw a lot of volume. So for all of those reasons, that's why Tanner Boser is my lock of the night. Jack Reinhardt really thinking along the same lines as I am. Nevin Mai saying Villante hasn't looked all that good. It could happen 21. Love Woodson. It could happen 21. A great follow on Instagram as well. Omar K. Hi, guys. Omar, you're always here with us, so I really appreciate you. And then MMA picks saying loser of Lins versus Boser go on to fight Justin Tafa. I think if Philipe Lins loses this fight, maybe he gets one more. Maybe he got a 3-fight contract. I would think that he did. But man, it's really tough to try and throw a bone there. So Jordan McMillan saying, hell yeah, I got Boser. He lives not far from me too. Good old country boy from Bonnyville, Alberta. I mean, he's a strip club bouncer. You don't get many of those guys, but you do with Tanner the Bulldozer Boser. That should be a really good fight. Get some cold brew coffee into me and we'll keep on getting into it. Jason Cunningham, let's get it. Of course, yeah, I mean, it's going to be an exciting one here. So, Jack, appreciate you. Let's see, Xavier, let's see what you're saying here. So, Boser's a risky pick. Lins will take him to the ground and from the ground to deep water. I don't know, Xavier. I really don't. I don't know if Lins is going to be able to get the fight to the ground. Listen, he had a great run in PFL Season 1 where he was a champ. He was knocking guys out. He was taking them to those deep waters. Ryan Terry saying, happy Canada. Happy Canada Day. Let's get this money. Listen, next Wednesday, happy Canada Day. We get the Fight Night picks. It's so bright in here. And I've got the lights on too. You can't really see it. But the prediction trophy, I'm beating Matt right now so far in the year. So it should be interesting to see how the year ends. But to all the fellow Canadians out there, happy Canada Day. Edgar saying, newcomer, good show so far. Edgar, really appreciate you as well. I'm going to hop in and out of the chat. Let's break down these fights. We don't have a whole lot of time left. So keep it going in the comments section. If somebody asks you what the pick is, if you can help me help them, fill everybody in. So I'm going to rip right through this and we'll get into it. So we've got Jordan Griffin taking on Youssef Zalal. When Matt and I made the picks on Monday night, Youssef Zalal was actually the underdog. So I started off the card by saying, hey, we're going to pick some underdogs on this one, and we are. And Youssef Zalal at the time was our underdog pick, or one of our underdog picks, ever so slightly. So we picked Zalal then. I'm sticking with Zalal right now. I think it's a pretty good pick. Xavier saying, are you picking him because he's our homie? We had him on a long time ago. That's not the reason why we're picking him. For all the reasons I listed before, that's why we're going to go with Boser. But to get back into this one, Griffin and Zalal. Listen, for Jordan Griffin to get the win, he's going to have to take Youssef Zalal down to the ground. I think that's a really tough test. You saw it in the fight that Zalal had against Austin Lingo, and you can say what you want about Lingo, but Lingo was a big favorite in that fight against Zalal. Zalal moves in and out, switches stances. He's able to stuff the takedown attempts. He's able to piece Lingo up on the feet, and Lingo coming in with that high boxing stance. Zalal looked great in that one. I know a lot of people in the comment section right now are going with the Youssef Zalal to get the win. But for Griffin to get it, he's going to have to hit him with a power shot, take it down to the ground, and I just don't see that happening. So let's see what everybody's saying in the comment section here. A lot of people going with Zalal. So let's see. Ryan Brazel saying Zalal wins. Jack Reinhardt saying I love Zalal. Bobby Lee Swaga saying Zalal minus 131 now. Adam Pearson saying Zalal is easy money. Adam Pearson also saying Griffin isn't good. It's not that he's not that good. I mean, I was looking forward to his fight that was originally scheduled between him and Derek Minner here in the last couple of weeks. I think that would have been a really good fight. But it just kind of sucks that we lost out on that one. Of course, that was a rematch. Now you get Youssef Zalal stepping in. I think he's a really good prospect at 145. Two of the longer guys in the division, so it should be a good one. But going with Zalal. Let's move forward. Kay Hansen, Jinyu Fry. And that's what people are asking about. Edgar Zamora saying, what do you think of Fry? In Invicta, good. In Ryzen and Road FC, it didn't work out for her, but she's taken on a lot tougher competition than Kay Hansen has. If you look at Jinyu Fry, Ayaka Hamasaki, and Seohee Ham, which are two names that are somewhat difficult to pronounce for an English speaker, but if you look at it in a lot of different respects, I just don't see Jinyu Fry's excellence or dominance from atomweight moving up to strawweight happening here. Listen, she's a better fighter on the feet. Kay Hansen, if she's able to get in range, if she's able to break that distance and take Jinh Fry down, I think it's a Hansen all day. I think there's a lot of good opportunities for Hansen to get a win here. And if you look at her last couple of fights, she's improved markedly over those fights. She's only 20 years old. And if she's able to get in range, like Braden's saying here, she's 100 or 1,000% persistent with the takedowns. The thing that Kay Hansen does really well that you don't see out of a lot of grapplers, it's the wrestling takedowns that she's able to accomplish in some of those sticky situations. We've seen it against some judo fighters where there was one of her fights, I want to say it was her last fight. Let's bring it up here so I don't sound like I, maybe don't know what I'm talking about. But if we look at her last fight against Perozin, she was caught in a judo throw and she reversed it and got on top. She's really good in top position. She's really good off her back. She's good in a lot of different situations. And Jinh Fry, she's kind of slowed down a little bit in her last few fights. I know she's been winning. She was fighting Ashley Smashley Cummins in the rematch in her last fight, able to get that atomweight title back in Invicta. But I think it's a good opportunity for Hansen to kind of break out here, get a big win, and move forward in the strawweight division. And for Jinh Fry, get hopping into a loss, let's see her fight somebody that's like atomweight caliber. Let's see a fight for Jinh Fry if she loses against maybe Brianna Van Buren, a smaller fighter at strawweight. That'd be a really interesting one. So taking Hansen to get the win here and moving forward. So this is the one that everybody's been asking about. So let me know in the chat. This has been a really contentious one between the latecomer and a nickname that we've heard all too much so far in the UFC, in Jason the Vanilla Gorilla Witt taking on Takashi Sato. And it's an interesting one because Sato, let's see, so far in the UFC, so he fought Ben Saunders coming over from Pancrase, gets the win there. Then he takes on a tough test against a good fighter in Bilal Muhammad. Well, we saw what Bilal Muhammad was able to do last weekend, and it just didn't work out for Takashi Sato in that one. Jason Witt's coming in on a 4-fight win streak. He, a lot of wins before the last loss that he had. And this is the thing, and a lot of people taking Witt. Ryan Brazell saying Witt. And I know a lot of people are saying Witt in the comments. There are a ton of people, when we threw this fight card out there on YouTube, who are taking Jason Witt to get the win. I'm going to caution you here, and I'm going to say, listen, Jason Witt's going to come in fresh. He's coming in on short notice. Everybody saw what happened with Justin James coming in against Frank Camacho, and there's a little bit of recency bias there. Let's look at his last few wins. So he beats Ashkan Moivari by rear naked choke in the 3rd round. All right, Moivari, really old fighter, and he was the best of those 4 that he beat. He beat Cliff Wright. Well, let's look at Cliff Wright's record. He's 41 years old currently, and he beat Thomas Gifford, who was just in the UFC. But holy smokes, I mean, he lost to Austin Hubbard, lost to Perry Olsen, lost to Ramiro Hernandez, Robert Rojas, Eric Wisely, LaRue Burley. There's a few wins peppered in between a lot of losses for Cliff Wright. Roberto Neves, that wasn't a super quality win, getting a decision win there. And then he beat Zach Busha, who some people might recognize from his time in Bellator, but you got to take all of it with a grain of salt. And like Nevin Mai is saying here, I feel like everyone is paranoid about last week's Camacho fight, but you got to remember he missed weight and looked bad. That much is true. Listen, the line has it close. Susanna's saying we've got some people picking the Woodson Erosa fight, but in this one, Takashi Sato should be able to get the win. The way that he was able to fight against Ben Rothwell, who I hold in some higher regard than Jason Witt. And listen, with Witt, you have to consider this too. Trains out of Glory with some really good fighters. I mean, James Krause is going to be in his corner, Sean Woodson, and you had to think that Jason Witt was already in Vegas, took this fight on super short notice, made weight, and the like. But yeah, I'm going to stick with the pick in Takashi Sato. I had him to beat Ramiz Brahimaj in the fight that was originally supposed to take place. That would have been a really good one. And listen, if Jason Witt loses, maybe give him Ramiz Brahimaj. I think it should be a really interesting fight. I think it's a great one. But moving forward, yeah, going with Takashi Sato here. Kyle Kelly saying, watching every week, always from Edmonton, Alberta. Love your stuff. Well, I appreciate it. Ryan Brazell saying Sato is a bit overrated. Yeah, and Ryan, you're not too far off. I mean, it's really tough to tell what you're going to get out of a fighter from Pancrase. Sometimes you get really good guys. Sometimes you get guys who have padded records. Or, they flip in, they go 1A, 1B with some of their opponents sometimes. But it should be a good one. Meat Boy saying, do you think this card is meaty overall? Yeah, I do think it's a pretty good card. I really do. So let's move into our last prelim. We've got Luis Pena taking on Khama Worthy. This is the other contentious one. A lot of people taking Khama Worthy, and I like it. I mean, I think, you can't be far off on that one. Khama Worthy coming in, what is he now? Plus 208. So the line shifted quite a bit in favor of Luis Pena lately. But I just think that this is one where it's Luis Pena's fight to lose. Pena's a good striker. I've been tough on him, and we were tough on him in the original prediction video about the fact that his takedown defense hasn't been great. And listen, I know Trovelin's saying Worthy's a decent underdog pick. He's on a 5-fight streak. I believe it's a 6-fight streak, actually. And he's been great since Khama Worthy's moved from featherweight to lightweight. He's looked great. Kyle Nelson was a guy who he had fought at 45, lost, got finished in that one. But I just see this one. I mean, Luis Pena, if he can control distance and stay on the outside, he should be able to get a win. You look at Khama Worthy's UFC debut on really short notice against a former training partner in Devontae Smith, where he's able to get the win. I just don't see that happening in this one. I think you got to take the winner of the nicknames in Violent Bob Ross over the Death Star. So we move forward, and this was the one that I originally said when Jordan McMillan had asked, what's your underdog, or what's your lock of the week? Sean Woodson, Julian Erosa. Juicy J's getting his third start here with the promotion. That's crazy to think of. Has a fight against Artem Lobov back from The Ultimate Fighter Season 22. Sean Woodson coming in. I had already mentioned Glory MMA. You look at Sean Woodson and his boxing and his movement on the feet. He was an amateur boxer before he came into MMA. Had a record of 43-6, which is insane. That's a lot of amateur fights. So what does he do well in this one? All right, so Sean Woodson will land a combo and then switch stances. Then he'll land a combo from orthodox, and then he'll switch to southpaw and this and that. He has a really nice long leg kick that he'll employ from both stances. Juicy J, I mean, I see Type S saying Erosa by submission. I'm seeing a lot of people picking Julian Erosa to get this one. I know it's a sexy pick. And again, a lot of people are really thrown off by last weekend. Last weekend, we had a lot of underdogs cashing, so it's kind of the hot take to go with some of these underdogs and these guys that are coming in on short notice. To me, it's tough to try and pick a guy like Julian Erosa. And Type S saying long legs, easy to take down. Yeah, but Kyle Bochniak, a real pressure fighter, wasn't able to really get that many takedowns. When he did, Woodson able to get back up against the cage, get back into his range, and box, and get the win. So I really think that Woodson's going to be able to get the win here. I know Jade Duck saying, how long till the first fight? We've got about 13 minutes, so I got to whip through this card. That's the point here. But yeah, Sean Woodson at a catch weight of 150. You'd expect both these guys to get back down to 45. But if you're going with Julian Erosa, remember, the 3-fight losing streak, then he comes out and he gets a win in another promotion. Now he comes into the UFC. It's not a recipe for success. I don't see it for Julian Erosa in this one. I mean, striking isn't the greatest, but it should be an interesting one. Type S saying, I'm subscribing now, sir. Great breakdowns, but Erosa by submission. Hey, you can pick Julian Erosa, and I'm not going to be too hard on you. I just don't see Erosa being able to get the win here. Jordan Jones saying Woodson's range will do it. I think it will as well. Then we move into Linz and Boser. I already talked quite a bit about this fight, but going to stick with Boser. That's another one of those locks of the weekend. If he's able to just piece up Philipe Linz, which is easier said than done, but I think if Tanner Boser can just employ the system that he has just about every fight camp, and again, this fight camp not really being able to train with too many guys in and around the Edmonton area, I think Boser's going to be able to get it done. If he can do what he normally does, should be able to get the win over Philipe Linz. I don't think we need to put too much time into that fight. Then we move into a really interesting one between Brendan Allen and Kyle Daukaus. And Daukaus coming in on short notice here. Listen, I really want the fight between Brendan Allen and Ian Heinisch to actually happen. The rematch from the LFA times. But Brendan Allen, LFA middleweight champ, comes into the UFC on a tidy little streak. Had a great win in his last fight against Tom Breeze that I learned a lot about him in that one. So it's really interesting. Trovelin throwing in here. Brendan Allen, definitely 24 years old, a real prospect. And Kyle has great BJJ at 9-1. But it should be interesting. So if we look at this fight in particular, Daukaus coming in undefeated, CFFC middleweight champ. He's fought some good competition. He was originally supposed to be fighting on Contender Series. Comes in here against Brendan Allen on short notice. That's the toughest thing of all. I mean, if you look at Brendan Allen so far, he's fought some of the best fighters that are out there available to him. And he's gotten the wins and he's gotten some finishes. So if you look at the trajectory, I think Kyle Daukaus has, a really good opportunity in the UFC after this fight. I just see it by way of Brendan Allen. And if we look over at the odds really quick, Brendan Allen closing into a minus 300 favorite. He opened at a minus 250. At one point, the line was around minus 320. But again, right now, somewhere around minus 300 average over on best fight odds. And again, I think that's a good chance for him to get the win. I think Brendan Allen has a legit shot at cracking the top 15, especially if he's able to get that fight against Heinisch. But I do see Brendan Allen making out quite well against some of these good fighters at middleweight. And if Allen gets a win, who would you throw Brendan Allen in against if he's able to get the win? I'd be really interested to see what you think. And there's a lot of things that I'd like to see what you guys think. I'm going to throw it over to a clip from this week's early stoppage because we've got some contentious topics. Listen, and listen, Charlie Chip's saying, are you related to Brendan Allen? I am not. But what's next for the UFC with the old apparel deal? Are we going Praetorian? What are we thinking here with this apparel deal? So I'm going to throw it over there for a quick second. I'm going to grab something to drink and see what you're thinking about the UFC's apparel deal popping up next. Is it going to be Venom? Is it going to be Nike? Is it going to be Under Armour? Let's see what you have to say.
All right, Craig, let's move on to start the conversation. We'll tip our cap to MMA Reddit, and let's talk about this, the clothing deal. So the UFC has had a clothing deal with with Reebok all this time. It's come under huge criticism. So now they've said that there are 3 finalists for the next deal when the Reebok deal expires is Nike, Under Armour, and Venom. The fact that Venom was added to that list makes everyone think that they're the front runner. What are your thoughts on this?
John, listen, straight up, I think it's time to bring back Praetorian. I mean, where have they been? They didn't pay their bills. They didn't pay the UFC sponsor cut. It's time to bring back Praetorian. I mean, all the big Brazilian fighters had them, JDS, Renan Barão. So bring back Praetorian, make them the official outfitter to the UFC. In all fairness, if you look at the 3 of these, I just want to talk a little bit better, and hopefully I don't get punched through the camera by you, the viewer, or John Franklin. But if I look at these, Nike, Under Armour, and Venom, yeah, Venom makes fight clothing, but are they really as big of a global brand as Under Armour is or Nike? No. Majority of outfitters right now in clothing brands are losing money. If I look at Under Armour, where their stock was last summer, so if we go to July of 2019, they were trading at, around $24. Today they're trading at $8.58. Their stocks dropped considerably. They're not where they were in the marketplace before. I'm wearing a pair of their pants right now, but that doesn't mean anything. And then in terms of Nike, they're one of the biggest brands out there. Their old sponsor, their big sponsored fighter before was John Jones. So you can draw off of that old stuff a little bit. But I think Nike's probably the best bet. I know there's always been conversations that Under Armour could do it. I don't think Venom's the way to go. I think it's Praetorian. Bring back the Brazilian giant. Bring him back. Bring back Praetorian. But yeah, so make sure you check out Early Stoppage. That was an interesting conversation, and I had a chance to get something to drink, so now we can move on. And that, what looks like a featured prelim there, or a featured main card fight, but you got Gian Villante taking on Maurice Greene. And Gian Villante looked like maybe he was Gian Villante's dad or maybe your uncle. I mean, a move up to heavyweight, you'd think maybe the guy would get cut or gain at least some muscle mass. But Gian Villante weighing in at 255, taking on Maurice Greene. And I know Maurice Greene lately in the UFC hasn't been the hyped guy that he was when he came into the promotion. And we had the fight again with Jeff Hughes. And listen, Maurice Greene, in terms of a future at heavyweight, I don't see it being as rosy or as fruitful as it might have, a couple of years ago. But he should be able to get the winner over Gian Villante. I mean, listen, we look at the odds here. Maurice Greene, a heavy favorite, coming in minus 256 average on best fight odds. And if we look over at his opponent, Gian Villante, I mean, it was a so-so time at light heavyweight. Listen, alternating wins and losses. Had the fight against Pat Cummins quite a while ago. Lost that one by split. He beats Francimar Barros at UFC 220. Loses to Sam Alvey by split decision. Beats Ed Herman by split decision in a fight that I definitely thought Ed Herman won in that one. And then if you look at his last fight, he gets finished by Mikhail Olashechuk in that one. So yeah, I don't see Gian Villante getting the win here against Maurice Greene. He's a guy that typically does struggle against distance fighters. And I know Maurice Greene will get in there and get into the pocket, even though he's one of the longer guys at heavyweight, light heavyweight, or in the UFC in general. But I just don't see him getting a win there. Jordan Jones saying Villante is the Weidman of light heavyweight. Even worse for him at heavyweight. New Jersey fighters suck besides Aljo. Yeah, New Jersey, New York fighters, and it's going to be interesting to see what we get out of them here, but I just don't see it being, all that good of a shot for Gian Villante here. And it's really interesting, too, that he gets a fighter like Maurice Greene. I think it's one of those guys that the UFC figured, well, if we're going to give Villante a shot, it's got to be against a guy like this. But yeah, I just don't see it there. Then we move into the co-main event. We got Mike Perry and Mickey Gall. We got 5 minutes left in the show before the fights actually start. Let me know what you're thinking in this co-main event and the main event. Mike Perry coming in, UFC record of 6-6. I mean, overall, yeah, I get it. I mean, he's fought some really tough talent, 13-6, taking on Mickey Gall, 6-2. And a lot of people thinking, hey, well, Mike Perry, he's going to have his girlfriend in his corner. It's not going to go all that well. He switched up camps all the time. He was at Jackson Wink. He was at Fusion XL. He's been kind of all over the map. Mickey Gall, comes up in New Jersey, and it was a good point. Comes up New Jersey, goes out to California. He's training with Joe Schilling. He spent some time at the BMF ranch. Then he goes back to New Jersey. Now he's here. So what are we going to get? Well, again, Mickey Gall's striking definitely isn't even up to par. I wouldn't say his striking isn't, of the highest caliber at welterweight. We saw that against Diego Sanchez. We've seen that. I mean, yeah, he beat Slim Tuhari, but it wasn't the greatest of fights. He gassed in that one. Mike Perry has a staying power in rounds 1, 2, and 3, as long as it doesn't go to the ground. And even if it does get to the ground, I really do think that it's a good opportunity for Mike Perry to get a win. I see Perry, piecing him up on the feet. I don't see Mickey Gall getting a win here. And it's funny because if you watched our prediction video, I kind of set it up in such a way that, we were kind of going back and forth, and maybe there was an opportunity that Mickey Gall got the win. And I was thinking, hey, even at those odds, they're pretty favorable if you're a Mickey Gall guy and you're thinking, plus 260 is where he's at right now. And at some point, if you look over on Best Fight Odds, there's a blip on that radar, and somebody put a lot of money on Mike Perry, and then it evened back out, which is really surprising. But yeah, I just don't see Mickey Gall getting the win there. And then in our main event, Dustin Poirier taking on Dan Hooker, another contentious one. A lot of people kind of, trying to pick sides, trying to figure out how this one's going to go. I'm going to have a quick look, because I throw these up on the old Instagrams, and you can vote on them. So I go fight by fight if you want to head over there at Craig Allen FMP. Out of 23 votes, 15 going with Poirier, and 8 going with Dan Hooker. And listen, that says a lot about my Instagram. Not a lot of people voting over there. But yeah, I really do think that Dustin Poirier is going to get the win. If we look over into the comments section, Quincy is saying Hooker has value plus 190. I think you're right. Ryan Brazel saying I really hope Pena gets the knockout. Jordan Jones going ham, going full send, saying Perry CT will overpower Gall. And then MMA fans saying Dustin Poirier by second or fourth round TKO. I think you're right. I think Dustin Poirier, this is his fight to lose. As long as he comes back strong off of the loss against Khabib, and that's easier said than done, but it should be a really interesting one. I think Dustin Poirier is on that other level, and there's only a few fighters there. I think Dan Hooker's a close second in that race. But yeah, all day Dustin Poirier. If I head back into the comments section, MMA fan kind of further shoring up that pick with Poirier. Charlie Chips saying good luck, Craig, with your picks. And let's go Dustin Diamond. I know Blue Star Seed saying Hooker is longer. Hooker, this is kind of, and this is going to be a weird roundabout way to try and compare and contrast. Remember when Alexander Volkov fought Curtis Blades last weekend? If Volkov was going to get the win, he had to throw something straight up the middle. And it was in the later rounds where Blades went for a lazy takedown and Volkov caught him with a kick straight up the middle, and Blades kind of backed off, and it took him some time to get back in once again. Hooker's got to do something like that again. And I see Blue Star Sea kind of comparing it. Well, Poirier beat a similar fighter in Max Holloway, and you can compare it with, well, quality of wins. I mean, Dan Hooker has a win over Gilbert Burns, and Burns looks amazing at welterweight right now. But those things aren't the same, because when Hooker fought Burns, Burns was killing himself to make 170, whereas Poirier's fine at making 155, and he fought, of course, Max Holloway moving up, this and that, but I mean, he pieced him up, and I think if he can piece Max Holloway up on the feet and he can control that range, he can do the same thing with Dan Hooker. Look at the fight against Justin Gaethje, that crisp boxing, he can switch stances. One of the best pure boxers in MMA is Dustin Poirier, and I think for all of those reasons, Dustin Poirier gets the win. And M. Addy saying retirement for Dustin if he loses, I don't think so. He's going to move back up, or he might move up to welterweight. You never know. Blue Starseed saying, who did you pick for last fight? Burgos. Yeah, but I mean, what's the difference there? That doesn't matter. Listen, I'll stand behind my picks. Yeah, it was a 5 for 7 weekend last weekend, but it should be an interesting one nonetheless. So, should be a great card. Fights are about to start here. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you check out the rest of those picks. Blue Starseed further going with Hooker. And listen, Dan Hooker very well could win, but I definitely have to side here with Dustin Poirier. And hopefully you can check out the rest of those prediction videos. We'll have recaps up tomorrow. We had a great weekend of recaps last weekend. John Franklin anchoring those shows with CamBam_MMA, Luis Reyes, as well as Hot Take Kate. So make sure you check those out. Really looking forward to the card coming up tonight. And as we always say, with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.
It's time!
For 15 minutes of non-stop MMA, tackling the biggest news in the sport. Head into the chat and let us know how you feel. Live from Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, here's your host, Craig Allen.